Until I was 65, I spent most of my Christmases with my mum, but after she died, I spent them in Morocco, where many of my friends celebrate Christmas with me and I celebrate Eid with them. This is what I'd look like if I didn't have a strict diet. And this is my strict diet: a bourbon sour and a good book and some nuts. So here we go, 2024. What will it bring? Well, as I said earlier, let's hope one of the things it brings is peace in Gaza and Israel and Palestine. I can't work out why there's a problem over there. Religious wise, it's really all the religions are the same and they all believe the same and they all basically say it's wrong to kill innocent people, especially wrong to kill innocent women and children. Yet it doesn't seem to be respected by Hamas, who I assume are Muslims, or Israel, who I'm assuming are Judaists. All the Christians, all of whom killed everybody. Remember the Crusades? Remember what went on in Northern Ireland between the Protestants and the Catholics, the two different kinds of some sort of stilly religion. I can't keep up with it all, mostly, but it does seem odd. It's strange, though, that since my mum died, I think in 2007, age 91, she had a good life. But because I really don't want to stay in United Kingdom with memories of always being at my mum's house and having marvellous Christmases there with her and with all the children belonging to my brothers and also my friends, all of whom used to come down. But times change. Now she's not around anymore. So for the past sort of 10 years or so, 15 years, I've been coming to North Africa, Marrakesh, where the sun is fabulous at this time of year. You can swim, as I do, for sometimes 4 or 5 hours a day. I know so many people in Morocco generally, many of whom come to visit me in Marrakesh, some of whom come to spend the Christmas or the New Year with me in Marrakesh. Many of whom are very dear friends, as I mentioned in an earlier show, many of whom now have children and grandchildren, and they all regard me as sort of the mad English uncle. But it's lovely to see them all. They're Muslims, most of them, either very strict Muslims or very relaxed Muslims. I technically am nothing. But of course, Christmas is technically a Christian celebration. And there's no problem. Everybody mixes with everybody. Nobody has any animosity towards anybody. So it can't be religion that's causing the madness of the wars, either in Russia and Ukraine or in Gaza or anywhere else on the planet. My own personal bugbear is what's going on with the Rohingya and the Burmese. They're called something else now, aren't they? Myanmar. And I can't work. I mean, so appalling killing and mutilation and rape and murder has gone on there. And they're all meant to be Buddhists, aren't they? Aren't Buddhists the most peaceful of all the religions? It's all clearly bonkers. So let's hope in 2024 we can clear that up. But I thought mainly in this episode I'd like to talk about music. So in a moment I'll do just that. The trouble is, as you get older, your back catalogue gets worth less and less, mainly because most of the people who loved all the hits you had and the songs you had success with, and the bands like Genesis and 10cc, the Bay City Rollers, and the shows like the Rocky Horror Show and all the other shows I was involved with, is most of the big fans of them die. And the new generation doesn't really know or understand who these strange groups like the Beatles or the Rolling Stones are. I remember one of my Moroccan friends here came to visit me in Tangier, and the Bean and his wife were there, and I took him round there. We all had a lovely afternoon chatting away, and at one point Seymour Stein's name came up as a friend of various members of my friends as well. And I think he just died, or at least he was not well. There was a story I told about him. And so obviously the fact is, one of Seymour's great successes was discovering Madonna. Well, of course, my friend, who was, I think, 20, 21, had never heard of Madonna. I mean, you know, she was 30 years ago. These days, who is Madonna? The young people say. And he hadn't got a clue and assumed that my friend's wife was Madonna. And she was highly amused and rather flattered by this, although I don't think she should have done. Madonna's far older than she is and nowhere near as beautiful. But even so, you have to remember, generations change. So what I've tried to do is I've tried to now actually redo some of my old tracks and my old hits, put them in a slightly different disguise with a young lad, a teenage performer called Le Baume, which stands for Looks Even Better on a Man, which was a slogan, an advertising slogan invented for a shirt by one of my godfathers back in the 60s, might even have been the 50s. And he ran a campaign of a very pretty blonde girl wearing this shirt that was far too big for her, and the slogan was looks even better on a man. Well, of course, you couldn't get away with that in this woke century, and I thought it was a brilliant slogan. It sold millions of shirts, by the way. He went on to be the chairman of Ogilvy, Benson and Mather, a huge advertising company. But I always loved the slogan and thought it was terribly funny. And I thought it was rather an appropriate name for a young lad who was just about to become a man, but wasn't yet, wearing very large shirts, which he did for many of the videos. So I've tried to revive some of my old tracks with him doing a sort of rap, because he loves rap. God knows why. He loves rap. So basically, I've written some rap for him. He does great performance of the rap and sings along or mimes along to the existing songs and the tracks. See what you think as Le Baume gives you. Well, let's first start of all with a tune you might be familiar with.
Had enough of death and destruction, evil and wickedness, violent eruption of false accusers, hijacking, me too, of countries justifying bombs out of the blue. I can't stand humanity any day soon. Le Baume is going to live on the moon.
Streets full of people, alone. Roads full of houses, never home.
justification, defense of a nation, blood on the land and death on the sand, retaliation, fake information, devotion to evil and devastation.
Hearts full of motors, painted green, mouths full of chocolate, covered cream, arms that can only lift a spoon. Everyone's gone to the moon. Everyone's gone to the moon. Everyone's gone to the moon.
We need to rethink the state of mankind instead of the deaf and dumb leading the blind. Our species on Earth will disappear soon. Le Beaume is going to live on the moon.
You can stream this and, of course, the original if you go to Spotify or Apple Music or any of the other streaming services. Will this work, I wonder? Trying to marry old hits from the 60s and 70s and 80s into a new style of rapping and hip-hop and so on, with beats and everything else? I wonder if that will attract the young or even middle-aged people these days. Wait and see. I've tried a couple of other tracks as well with Le Beaume, so stay tuned and you'll hear them too. I had a dream last night, funnily enough, about Barry Gibb and the BeeGees. I knew the BeeGees way back when. They were trying hard to break in Britain back in, I think, the late 60s, and they hadn't got anywhere. I remember at that time I was very good friends with Robert Stigwood, who was their manager, and David Shaw, who was his partner, and indeed at one sort of royal premiere or something, which your tickets were like gold dust, and they couldn't get tickets for the BeeGees, who nobody'd ever heard of. They got 3 tickets for me, Robert and David, and we were each allowed to bring +1. And Robert's was Barry Gibb, David's was Robin Gibb, and mine was Maurice Gibb, that could actually be photographed attending this royal premiere or whatever it was. I was a major promoter of the BeeGees in the early days, in my columns and in everything I did. And after they broke and had their first hits, I got a call from Barry, and he said, "Jonathan, we've written you a smash hit song." And I said, "Oh, that's very kind of you," because I hadn't had a hit for a couple of years or so. And they said, "Come round and listen to it. I'm sure you'll love it." Well, I arrived at Robert Stigwood's flat, which was a dreadful little Muse flat, full of things like stuffed tigers. I think he was renting it at the time. And they played me this song, but before they played it to me, Robert said, "Jonathan, I have to tell you, I'm not allowing the boys to give this to you because I think it's too good a song and I want them to do it." And the song was "I Started a Joke." Anybody who knows about Jonathan King will understand how that could have been written for and about me. But in the long run, I didn't really mind because Robin sang it, and actually his voice suited it brilliantly, and I think it was actually the BeeGees track that most suited Robin Gibb as a vocalist. Of course, one of the things that happens at the end of every old year, and it's bye-bye 2023, is the obituaries that run in all the newspapers. And watching last year's people who passed us by includes several of our friends, some not in the newspapers, but some in the newspapers, like Tina Turner. I shall tell you a few stories about her over the next episodes. But it was that actually made me, I'm sure, dream about Barry Gibb, because I well remember with Barry some years ago that I mentioned to him that sadly I'd known all the members of the Gibb family and he'd lost them all. Obviously his brothers, Maurice and Robin, both passed away very young. Both his parents I knew and they died. His younger brother Andy, who became a pop star in his own right and who I knew when he was a tiny little lad, died. And even people like Robert Stigwood and David Shaw died. So poor old Barry is left on his own. Apart from anything else, a very underrated talent, one of the huge masters of music in the last few decades, in my opinion. The BeeGees were incredible. And quite a few others have now gone. I'm finding myself almost every day reading the obituaries and seeing people that have disappeared. I'll tell you more stories of things like sex with David Bowie. Actually, me refusing to have sex with David Bowie several times. He kept asking me again and again, and I kept saying no. I've mentioned this in the past, but various stories about past celebrities as we look at obituaries and see all the people that have died. And talking of people that have died, one of my best songs, possibly I think my best song, was a track called A Very, Very Melancholy Man. It was never a hit. It featured me basically talking and a catchy chorus, and it was about an old homeless man who passed away. And my assistant James was very, very keen on this track, as indeed I was. And when I said I was thinking of getting Le Baume to update some of my past tracks in order to appeal to the new generation, or at least to make them aware of some of our older tracks, he said, you must do this one, A Very, Very Melancholy Man. So I've tried, indeed, to do that as one of the tracks that Le Baume is updating on his new Spotify account.
I was minding my own business some centuries ago when a track came on the radio on some obscure DJ show. It touched my heart, I fell apart. The words I heard were true. So here it is, an early rap I send from me to you.
I was minding my own business on the Manchester Express train when an old man came and sat down who was obviously insane. He was talking to himself in a very funny way, and all the other people, one by one, decided not to stay, till eventually just he and I were sitting all alone, 'cause I was interested in what he had to say, when on his own he said, "What's it all about? I often wonder. And why on earth is everybody here? Sometimes pressure is enough to drive me under. And like everyone, I'm so afraid of fear. All the world is getting harder. Oh, it's much too much to stand. That's why I'm such a very, very melancholy man." The conductor came for tickets, but he didn't stay too long. In fact, he swung around and went out when he realized what was wrong. Then the geezer coughed and wheezed a bit, complained about the cold, suggested putting on his overcoat, and mourned his getting old. Soon he paused in his soliloquy. He paused and scratched his head, then, assured of total privacy, addressed himself and said, "What's it all about? I often wonder. And why on earth is everybody here? Sometimes pressure is enough to drive me under. And like everyone, I'm so afraid of fear. All the world is getting harder. Oh, it's much too much to stand. That's why I'm such a very, very melancholy man. There's a difference between closing eyes and letting out a sigh, and I knew with sudden certainty the man was going to die. I rushed out into the corridor, and I fell from side to side as I ran to the conductor with his big mouth gaping wide. Well, between us we both laid him down and tried to rest his head, but by the time we got to Manchester, the poor old man was dead. What's it all about? I often wonder. And why on earth is everybody here? Sometimes pressure is enough to drive me under. And like everyone, I'm so afraid of fear. All the world is getting harder. Oh, it's much too much to stand. That's why I'm such a very, very melancholy man. All the world is getting harder. Oh, it's much too much to stand. That's why I'm such a very, very melancholy man.
What's it all about, I often wonder. Well, let's go into that more in future episodes. So what are your New Year's resolutions? Well, mine remain the same as they have been for the past few years: to destroy the false allegations industry. The industry that makes millions out of people inventing or exaggerating claims, often of sex abuse, but often of other things as well. I've vowed to do this for years now. A few years ago, it was really concentrating on the police, the bent police, the lazy or incompetent police, or even the corrupt police. Well, that's gone fairly successfully. The police in Great Britain now are really under the spotlight, and a lot of the things they used to do they can no longer get away with. But there's still the bent, corrupt, lazy, incompetent lawyers and the false accusers themselves. Some of them, of course, are not false. Some of them are genuine accusers and people who are victims. But the vast majority are either completely faking it or exaggerating it and being told what to do and how to do it by bent lawyers making a fortune out of them. But enough of that, more of it in a later show. This is mainly about music, and I'm wondering whether you think my idea of upgrading a lot of past tracks will work and is right for the current world. It's a bit like the whole climate change thing, where I'm a bit different from everyone else. My attitude is climate change is 99% down to things we cannot control. The universe as a whole, whether or not the sun is dying, various things like that cause tsunamis and earthquakes and everything else. And my attitude towards climate change is humanity has to adapt so that we can continue to live comfortably for thousands of years under the new forms of climate. Well, I'm a bit the same about music. All over the news at the moment is the fact that vinyl sales are increasing hugely, and so are cassette sales and CD sales. People are buying millions of the things. Yes, except actually they're not buying millions, they're just buying a few hundreds. But the main thing is, last year they were only buying 300 a year, whereas this year they're buying 350 a year. It's all bollocks. You can't choose to change things. The world will continue to adapt. At the moment it's all down to streaming, and if you want to stream lots of music, you have to approach it in a different way, which is what I'm trying to do. See what you think as I say goodbye for episode 61 of A Victim Bites Back. And before we say hello for A Victim Bites Back number 62, take a listen to this tune you may actually recognise. See you next time.
I look around me and all I can see is innocents murdered or drowning in sea. Why divide up humanity with flags unfurled? We are the victims in this insane world. We all need smacking to get our heads right. We all need slapping every day and every night. Smack us for cruelty, slap us for madness. Bring back decency, bring back kindness. Let's open all borders, let everyone in. We can all live in happiness, share love and win. Of course a few loonies will walk through the doors, but we make our own loonies who break our own laws. The majority of people are most times good. They respect other citizens, behave as they should. Let's welcome them, nurture them, allow them to find all that's best in our countries. Above all, be kind. Religion or sex drive, it's time to begin. Enough of this murder because of a nation, the way we see God or sex orientation. The time has arrived, now humanity rules. Enough of being governed by nationalist fools. I look on to you all as brothers and sisters. Let's turn this whole world into human resistors. Persecuting our species ain't wealthy, can't allow moral looting. I withstand this lunacy, stop it right now. I refuse to become a sacrificial cow. I won't be a bullfight, I want joy and sunlight. Let's stop all this killing and give up this fight. I refuse to bow down to moral insanity. I demand a return to decent humanity. I refuse to bow down to moral insanity. I demand a return to decent humanity.